Good everyone, it's Steve from Sneaker Tech Talk, back with another video today. For today's video, we will be taking a look at the performance review of the Nike Freak 7. So without further ado, let's take a look at Giannis's 7th signature shoe. All right, before we get into the shoes, I did spend around 9 hours with these on court. There is some stuff that I do enjoy about this shoe, and then there's a couple things that I'm not a huge fan of, but one of the biggest things that I do enjoy about the Freak 7 is the price point. I believe these are 110 USD, 145 here in Canada. I think that's a fantastic price point for what you're getting. You're really not getting a ton of tech, but just keep in mind, these shoes will be going on sale. And if they hit the 30 or 40% off price point, these will be well under 100 USD. But the price point, even right off the bat for a signature Nike basketball shoe, is a great price, all things considered, in my opinion. If you've played in a pair of these, please sound off in the comments and let me know what you think of the Freak 7. But as always, starting with the outsole, you do have this multi-directional outsole on the Freak 7s. You do have his name, Antetokounmpo, running across in this semi-translucent black portion, and then you have this solid orange portion right here. These have a pretty loud squeak on court. They do collect a little bit of dust, but it just depends what court you're playing on. If you're playing on a dirty floor, you'll have to wipe, but on clean floors, this is a very reliable setup. As far as the rubber firmness, it is a bit more on the firm side, so I think you could bring these outdoors. Just keep in mind they are pretty shallow when it comes to the tread depth, but overall, they have pretty good coverage on this model. I never really slid out in this model. I was making all my typical movements within this model, and I did enjoy this setup, and that's why they're going to score a pretty solid 8.5 out of 10 as far as the traction goes. Now, as far as the cushioning goes, they did take out the zoom, hence the price point, 110 USD. One thing I will say though is a lot of PGs from like 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago were 110 as well, and they always had, for the most part, 4-foot zoom air. So it would have been nice for these to have that at least, but you're not getting that. You are getting a full-length bed of Cushlon 3.0, as you can see right on the back. It's kind of a little deceiving because this midsole kind of looks like the Lunarlon midsole from back in the day with Nike basketball around 10 years ago. How does this cushioning perform? At the back, you actually get quite a bit of impact protection. You're seated pretty deep within the shoe, and you can really feel a nice bounce to your step within this model right here. In the forefoot, you're not getting a ton of impact protection because it is a lot more close to the floor, but I do enjoy this setup on the Freak 7 when it comes to the cushioning. The heel to toe transition is like extremely nice, very natural feeling underfoot, and I just think this is a great model for that entry price point of 110, and within a month or two you're going to be able to get these for $70 or $80. We all know how the Nike outlets kind of get shoes returned and or just get them sent to them, and you're going to get them for a very cheap price point. But overall, I would say that this is a reliable setup. It just depends on how fast this cushioning setup will break down, because it will. It's just their standard Cushlon 3.0, which is very soft and nice underfoot. But just keep in mind, after around 20, 30, 40 hours, you're not going to have as nice of a bounce under your foot. So just keep that in mind. But I would say it does get a pass. And for the cushioning setup on this model, we can no longer call it the Zoom Freak because there is no zoom air. The Cushlon setup is nice, and they're going to get an 8 out of 10. As far as the fit goes, really no complaints for me. I went true to size with this model, a size 10.5, and my toe is right near the end of this fused toe rand right here. It is comfortable on foot. You have a ton of padding at the back of the shoe and on the tongue. The tongue is gusseted, so it doesn't move around too much on foot. The tongue is rather high. It sits up pretty high on your shin. And then the last does taper quite a bit in the forefoot and become a lot more narrow, and the toe box is pretty tapered as well. They do take a little bit of time to break in, but other than that, I did enjoy this setup, a pretty comfortable setup at that. They have a traditional lacing system that does run down the shoe, and then you have these eyelets at the midfoot right here that do really cinch down and pull your foot into the back of the shoe. So I think you can stay true to size with this model, even if you're a wide footer, because through the midfoot right here and here it is pretty wide. It just tapers in towards the end. But as always, if you can try these on in store, that would be my recommendation for the Nike Freak 7. But overall, I did enjoy the fit on these, and that's why they're going to get a pretty decent 7.5 out of 10. As far as the weight goes for this model right here, a US 10.5 comes in at 14.75 ounces. So pretty lightweight, all things considered. It's a pretty standard weight for my size 10.5. As far as the materials go, again, that price point is really dictating what you're getting within this shoe. And you're not getting anything premium, but it does work on foot, in my opinion. At the back, you have a mesh material at the very back, and then you have a synthetic nubuck material right here, and then kind of this neoprene ribbing that runs throughout the lateral and the medial side right here. The midsole right here is almost like a suede or nubuck. It has a really nice feel to it. And then at the toe box, you have a pretty crispy screen mesh material that does take about an hour to break in. And then you have a fused toe rand right at the toe box for some extra durability and support. The tongue is very nicely padded at the top with like some neoprene. Overall, for what this price point is, $110, it's a pretty good setup, and I do think it's pretty durable, especially at the toe box right here. So I do think this is a pretty nice setup. Indoors or outdoors, I think this will last. One thing I will say is there's not a ton of airflow within this shoe as far as the perforations on the tongue and on the side panels. But from my experience, they were pretty comfortable after they broke in from that initial hour or so. So you have to consider the price point of these, and that's why they're going to score a pretty nice 8 out of 10 as far as the materials go. And then last but not least, the support on the Nike Freak 7. You have an internal TPU heel counter at the back of the shoe, which does a pretty good job of locking you in. And then you have this Cushlon foam that wraps around your heel as well and adds an extra layer of protection. And then this neoprene wing with this midsole, your foot is seated housed within it right about here. You sit pretty deep within the shoe. So this whole wing acts kind of as a extra guard on hard lateral cuts. I believe there is a top loaded shank plate within the shoe because it is pretty rigid at the midfoot. And then you have the fuse around the toe box and then more of the same of that wing on the medial side. So for me, I would say this is a pretty supportive basketball shoe. You also have a pretty wide and stable base at the bottom. I did enjoy my time within this shoe. I just did have to adjust the laces with the fit because once I played in them for about 45 minutes to an hour, they did loosen up a little bit here at the midfoot. I cinched down the laces and I had no more movement within the side of the shoe. I didn't have any heel slip at the back of the shoe. Overall, it was a very nice experience as far as the support goes because honestly, I would say this is one of his most supportive shoes thus far. And that's a great thing, whether you're a big player or a smaller player that wants to play in the Freak 7, you will be good to go. And that's why these are going to score a pretty decent 8.5 out of 10. So that's going to do it for today's performance review on the Nike Freak 7. Sound off in the comments if you think Nike should continue his line. I believe the PG line ended at the 6s. Do you see a future for Nike basketball with the Freak line? Honestly, at this point, for what you're getting for the cheap price point, it's going to allow a lot of parents to kind of have an entry into the Nike signature line without breaking the bank. But I just don't think we're going to get many more signature shoes. We might get 3 more years to get them to 10. But other than that, I don't think this is going to be like a KD line or a Kobe line or even a LeBron line, obviously at 23 now. I think we'll get a couple more models and it will be a wrap for Giannis and Nike basketball. But sound off in the comments where these rank for you in his signature shoe line thus far. I do enjoy this model. There's just a couple things I'm not a huge fan of, like the lack of zoom air in the forefoot. But for the price point, beggars can't be choosers, really. I do think there's a lot of brands that are charging less than this, but offering more than this as well. But like I said, that's going to do it for today's performance review on the Freak 7. Sound off in the comments what you guys think of this model and if you guys have picked them up or if you're just planning for them to go on sale. As always, if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, that would definitely help the channel a ton. And check out my Instagram over at Sneaker Tech Talk, as it is an extension of my YouTube channel with all my pickups, basketball footage, and nostalgia as a whole. As always, thanks for watching today's video, and until next time.
in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides, like even when I die, I'ma ride for the squad. Let her ties in the hearse. I've been on the vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's fine, but I'm tired of the grind. Then I come alive in the night to realize I'm